I'd like to talk to you about stem cell therapy. What brought you to that, and what were you thinking, and what did you learn?
I was looking for something for my hip, and when the people out here recommended, that I may take a look at your brochure, and I looked at it and said stem cell therapy, and I can't remember if it said joint health and joint regeneration, something like that. That piqued my interest, so I started looking on your website, and I saw that you could get that you had results with this therapy, and so I knew nothing about it at that point until I started to read. And so what I've learned, I'm sure you'll jump in anytime if I say something incorrect, but as I recall from the reading, with the stem cells, I didn't realize that you have stem cells all over your body, and I guess I really didn't realize that no matter where you get them, when you put them in another place, they will take on the character of the cells that they're in neighborhood with. And so you can take stem cells from fat, which I didn't know, adipose tissue stem cells, because it's readily available for most people.
We don't have enough for you anymore, Steve.
It's getting there. You can get stem cells from your bone marrow, so that's a good source. And so by extracting that, I guess you spin it up in a centrifuge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Separate out all the stuff you don't need, and then what you're left with is the actual stem cells. Is it in the plasma? Did you get that?
Well, plasma we typically refer to as blood.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
Technically in the fluid, yes.
Okay, so in the fluid, and then you re-inject that into the joints that are bothersome. And that was the coolest thing, is I remember asking you, it's like, well, when you inject them, how do they know what to make? Right? Because I mean,
right.
They mimic, right?
What drug do we put in there to get them to turn on?
Yeah, they're mimic cells, right? They mimic the cells that they bind to. And so if the theory is, as I understand it, if my hip is starting to degenerate, or a shoulder or whatever, and you inject stem cells into there, your own stem cells, that you will regenerate the tissue in which they're neighboring. And so that really was like, wow, because really the alternative for a hip is a hip replacement. At some point, if it degenerates far enough, you have no more articular cartilage to really keep that joint fluidly moving. If it's gone and you're bone on bone, the only alternative that we know of, at least in the conventional world, is, okay, now I'm going in for the hip replacement. Which they've gotten better at some of the hip surgeries to be less invasive, but it's still an invasive surgery. I mean, they're literally cutting off the top of your femur, right? And they jam a rod down in there that's got a ball on the end, and then the hip socket, they reline that with a synthetic material, and away you go. And when you think about that, it's just the bone itself, I mean, is a very traumatic intrusion. Now, I think where they've gotten better is, depending on which angle they go in, they can move stuff out of the way rather than cutting all the muscle tissue. So the recovery time is faster, but it's still a very invasive surgery. So to me, being as active as I am right now, I'm like, no, it's not on the table yet, And so when I heard about stem cell,
and hopefully it never will be, Steve.
Yeah, I heard about this. I'm like, really? I have experience with microfracture surgery, which is supposed to try to do the same thing, except that in and of itself is a very invasive surgery as well, where they literally go in to the articular cartilage surface. When I say articular cartilage, if this is the bottom of my femur and where it impacts the top of the tibia in the knee, this surface right here was damaged, and so they remove the damaged surface, and they literally take a bone awl. If you've ever seen an awl, it's a leather puncturing tool, typically. It's a pointy screwdriver used for poking holes in leather. And what they literally do, it's a bone awl. They get in there and they jam it into the articular surface a number of times, deep enough to penetrate into the bone marrow. And the stuff that leaches out, stem cells if it gets in there. And so, again, this is the part I just learned from the stem cell research, is that when that stem cells come in contact with the damaged articular cartilage, they just know to build new cartilage. But when you think about jamming it all into your bone, yeah, you're out, right? You're not feeling that, but you're then on crutches for 6 weeks. No load bearing, not even minimal load bearing. Literally having your foot off the ground for 6 weeks, which then you have weeks of therapy after that to recover, just to get the muscle back and to get your. I mean, the day that I got off crutches, they were like, "Okay, see ya." boy, I haven't walked in I literally almost could not walk out of the doctor's office to my car carrying my crutches. It was that difficult. So I mean, that's the kind of those are the alternatives.
A little bit different than stem cell.
Yeah, than just getting an injection.
And walking out of the office.
Yeah, and walking out. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, you're gonna have some stiffness and stuff, but it's a far cry from a full-blown surgery and the cost.
Yeah, that's
the cost
true.
differential is, we're talking literally tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
For a traditional orthopedic type surgery, and
Especially
so
with these higher deductibles coming up.
yeah, and so if something like this works, which from all the things that I'm reading, people are seeing amazing results with some of this.
It's been amazing.
So the platelet thing, I haven't really researched as much, but I understand that is you get
From blood.
from blood versus the marrow, but you're essentially getting platelet-rich plasma, correct? And you can inject that in the same way. Does it do the same thing with the stem cells, or what's the mechanism?
Two different kind of mechanisms. So the platelet-rich plasma is more the growth stimulus. It's think about hormones and things that are floating in your bloodstream, constantly going to your liver and saying, "Hey, keep regenerating. We're alive. Keep making stuff. Kill off the old. Bring in some new." And so those hormones are constantly floating around. What we do is we harness those hormones, and we're going to stick them inside the joint that says, "Hey, get back to work. Keep healing. Keep regenerating." The stem cells are new cellular structure. Think about scaffolding and building new structure. That's where the stem cells really come into use, whereas the PRP is just the stimulus. So stem cells without a stimulus is kind of weak. So we always add the PRP stimulus in with the stem cells.
Okay.
You can do PRP by itself if the joint isn't too damaged and you have too much cellular structure to regenerate, then the PRP can kind of regenerate that structure. The PRP is better for soft tissue more than arthritis, but I have seen some success with PRP and arthritis.
Cool.
So good. Is there anything that, and you might have already answered this, but is there anything that you learned about stem cell therapy that maybe someone else might not know? Is it just that, hey, it exists? End of story. That's the main thing.
The successes. I mean, even the platelets. I mentioned something on my Facebook account about, I discovered this doc in town, and you can do platelets or stem cell. And this guy popped up and said, "Hey, I had platelets done on my knee," and he goes, "I highly recommend it." He goes, "My knee feels like completely better." Mm-hmm. And so you look at that, and again, I've had 2 knee surgeries. I know what that feels like. I know what the recovery time is. I know what the costs are. So when I look at the cost differential and then the results, I mean, it's one thing for the cost differential to be, really large, but it doesn't work real great, right? That's a different story.
Right.
This is, I'm seeing this big cost differential. I'm seeing I don't have to go through all this surgery, and I'm seeing that people are getting results from this. Hey, pick me. I mean,
because there's very little harm involved also. If the PRP or stem cell doesn't work, you can always do joint replacement later, where once you get a joint, there's not really going back.
Exactly.